Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and man, it has been an interesting 48-ish hours, basically. This is all about perk weighting. Now, Bungie has come out and clarified that intentional perk weighting is not a thing. So I just want to say that basically up front. If you think about perk weighting, it would be the idea as to something that is, more highly sought after, maybe perks that likely could be better, would have a lower chance to drop. You could see this in any different number of situations. That is not something Bungie does. They have said it once, and then they went and checked their code, and they said it again. So there's nothing that says Cascade Point, or Bait and Switch, or Envious Arsenal, or Explosive Light, that any of those perks have it intentionally, and the keyword there is intentionally, none of those have an intentionally higher or lower chance to drop. It should just be random, and that's their intention of how it's supposed to work. Things seem to have been uncovered in the last 48 hours with a lot of data scientists, Light.gg, a couple other people. I'll try and make sure I list. If you want to go dig into all the sources, I'm sure it's all over Reddit. I'm just trying to do a summary, so if I don't quite get all of the sources, Mossy Max is another one on Twitter that I saw who tagged some other people. I'm forgetting a couple of names, so forgive me if I don't get all the sources. But the idea is, all of this came from one situation. You have a new grenade launcher in the new dungeon, drops in the first encounter, so it's quite farmable, and you have a perk combination on a grenade launcher that is very, very, very potent right now. You have Bait and Switch paired with Envious Arsenal. So, if you look at Envious Arsenal, dealing damage with both other weapons before readying this weapon refills it from reserves. And then also says dealing any damage with both of your other weapons refills this magazine from reserves upon readying the weapon. So if you have this in a damage phase, it is very, very beneficial because dealing damage with both other weapons. What's the one other perk that would go with that? It's quite literally the other one that says dealing damage with all equipped weapons within a short time will give this weapon a damage boost. So you damage with your primary, you damage with your secondary, your first hit here is going to trigger Bait and Switch, and you've already got full ammo because of your primary and secondary damage, and your first shot is going to boost your damage for every other shot that comes out of it. You could switch back over, get a little damage with one, get a little damage with the other, finish up, with the Bait and Switch trigger, and also, again, have a full magazine. It is a pairing that goes together extremely well. Now, something like Cascade Point, that's not bad. Cascade Point is going to have final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon, increase the weapon's rate of fire. And for grenade launchers, we know, busting out a bunch of grenade launchers, basically emptying your clip, that's going to be a good thing to do as well. So all of those are going to be pretty good perks. But the thing was, everybody really wanted this new perk combination. Now it's a new dungeon, takes a little bit, but being as this can drop in the first encounter, people got some really, really, really efficient farms, and there was even duping that was done for it. I mean, you can take the duping or leave it for duping the little orb on the first encounter, but people were duping orbs to try and get as many drops on this as possible. After a while, it kind of seemed like this was a really, really, really hard thing to come by, and everybody was trying to figure out why. Is something going on? Is there a reason why we can't get this thing to drop? Tons of people are farming and nobody seems to be seeing it, and we're talking thousands upon thousands of drops, especially once they started collecting data. They got thousands upon thousands. I don't know if it was 10, 20,000. It was a lot. All I can say was it was a pretty good sample size, to say the least. And what they noticed was, first off, it was a very hard combination to get. Second, they started to gather data for whatever reason to be like, hey, is something going on here? But the other thing at the same time, they asked Bungie, are perks weighted? Because in theory, this is going to be an amazing combination for a damage rotation on a boss. Maybe Bungie says, hey, these are harder to come by because we know they're going to be good. We don't want everybody to have this thing, so we don't want them weighted higher. We definitely don't want it weighted even. Maybe they want them weighted lower. That's what some people are thinking. Bungie replied and said, no, there's no specific perk weighting. It's not the fact that, like, hey, Demolitionist and Chain Reaction happens to have a higher random chance than, say, Envious Assassin and Bait and Switch. In their coding, in their intentional coding, the way they chose to set up perks should be completely random. But more and more data kept being gathered. People set up websites to tie into the API. You could log in and say, hey, track while I'm farming. They gathered a lot of data. And I say they as all the people between Light.gg, Mossy Max, Niwu, and I'm forgetting other people probably in the process. There's a lot of people who've been helping with this. But the idea was they went to go look and see what is the data telling us. And what they figured out is actually crazy. And then even crazier, you have Bungie actually confirm it today, because they said they were going to look into it. And then today they replied, 1:57 p.m. October 25th. And that's kind of why I hadn't made a video yet. I was curious. They actually did a really fast investigation, because they can simulate stuff faster than we can. So they said, our team is working through community source data and internal simulations to reproduce reported issues regarding legendary weapon perk R&D. So they said, first, after investigation, we can confirm an issue has been found in our code where some random perk combinations are harder to earn per legendary weapon perk set. In some cases, desirable perk combinations are a bit easier, and I'll explain how that works too. But they said, while we inspected our content and confirmed each perk is weighted equally, so again, they didn't intentionally do anything, an issue in perk pool RNG is the culprit, and I'll kind of explain why, and it's like a very weird thing. But our team has quickly identified a potential solution for the issue, and we are rapidly working on a fix. So this is something they're actually aware of now, and they're trying to get it fixed as quickly as possible. So what is going on? So the best way I can explain this is from the API. This is from Bungie's systems. This is where you get light.gg. This is where you get so many different websites with all of the information. They pull it from Bungie's, basically, I forget what API stands for, but they pull it from their system. They log in, they ask for access to the API, and they can just pull data. That's where trials reports and so many things come from. Data mining to get some of that, but I mean, light.gg can pull perks pretty quickly once the patches go out, because they can get to that information. So what is going on is you have your third column here, and you have your fourth column here. In your third column, and this is kind of the prime example, take Envious Assassin. This is the one that everybody wants. If the perk is directly across from it, and this is the best way I can visually show you, if it's directly across from it, this is going to have the highest chance to drop, straight up. Then, if you are one movement away, whether it's up or down, that's going to be the second highest chance to drop. And then the idea is you have to think about the perks like a cylinder. So as you rotate from like 1, you would come back around to 6. It's like a rotational lock if you've ever used one of those. But the idea is if this is position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, after you get to 6, it's going to go back to 1. So if it's this option, the next one would be here. So this is 0 away. These two are 1 perk movement away. Then you've got right here surrounded, along with, if you go again up, we would come back to chill clip. Those would be 2 away. Those would even be lower chance. And what happened to be the case on this weapon is the fact that Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch is as far away as you could possibly get. And there's data to this where, if you give me a sec, I'm actually going to try and put another thing up on screen, and it'll actually show you like this graph real quick. All right, so this example is going to be from Max, and this is just another thing they collected data on. They went back to look at some historic stuff as well. And what you can see is, take something like Stats for All, directly across from Danger Zone, or take something like Feeding Frenzy, directly across from Disruption Break. So if you go for Danger Zone and Stats for All, and this is like 100,000 drops, you can see that for Stats for All, that it has one of the highest possible drop rates. The other one is Repulsor Brace. And again, Repulsor Brace is probably more kept of a perk. But if you go back and you look, Repulsor Brace is right there next to it. So then same thing if you do Threat Detector, it's right here, 4,200, 4,000, 4,058. Then if you look at Harmony and Disruption Break, you can see that if you take this one and you go for Harmony or Disruption Break, that it's going to be, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2 movements away, or 0, 1, 2 movements away. That Harmony and Disruption Break, you can see those have like half the drop rate. So these are in the 4,000s, and then you can see these are in the 2,000s. And then if you look at Collective Action, so Stats for All and Collective Action, again, it's 1, 2, 3 perk movements away. And I know this sounds crazy. You can go from 4,000 to 2,000 to 196. So over the course of 12,000, 14,000, probably closer to about 15,000 drops. 15,000 drops, and then you end up being able to get maybe 196 that have collective action. You've got a really, really low statistical chance that that's going to happen. It's 0.01306 repeating percent. So, yeah, 1.306 repeating percent. 1% chance to drop. But on the other side, if you have, like, say, 15,000, and you've got 4,200 for the other perk, you've got a... bad math, sorry. 4,200. You got a 25% chance just to sit there and have accidentally danger zone to drop. So you have a 1%, sorry, 0.1%, maybe a 1% chance for collective action, and you have a 25% chance for this to drop. So that's kind of the big issue. So then if you go back to light.gg and we look at some of the new stuff that we've got in the dungeon, you come down here. Sorry, it's all zoomed in. It just makes it easier for you guys to see this stuff. Same thing's going on here. Envious Arsenal. If you look at Explosive Light, this would be the most common. And then you've also got One for All and Chain Reaction that are also probably going to be, if you get an Envious Assassin, you're probably going to have one of these three. Then less likely, about probably half as common as these three, you would be seeing either Surrounded or Chill Clip. And then at that really low 1% or lower chance to drop, Bait and Switch would be the hardest thing to get. So whatever happened, and again, if you ever look up in, I'm not a computer science major by any means, I did a tiny bit of programming in high school, but even one of my buddies was way better than I was. But the idea is, if you ever do random, it's still based off of a system. It is still based off of the software, and it has to be random from somewhere. You could start a random algorithm with anything. What is the time on the computer that you can throw into a weird calculation or whatever? Random still comes from somewhere. Somehow, their system, and we don't know how far this goes back. It could have been a few seasons. I don't know if it's been like the whole progression of the game. But if you take something like this, and for whatever reason, these get weighted higher somehow in the algorithm, and then this one gets weighted the absolute lowest, yeah, the system's actually working against you. But as Bungie said, certain things actually have a higher chance to drop. Now, we've been crafting stuff for a while, so we haven't really been thinking so much about random drops. But if you think about some stuff that's going to be uncraftable, then it's going to be the point of what is... Go back. Let's just see what the other weapons are from here. So take an energy auto rifle just to see what's going to be good. So again, what would be an advantageous drop here? Honestly, I don't really love a lot of these things, but Onslaught's probably good. So then what might you pair with it? Weapons, while this weapon is equipped, taking damage increases handling and stowed. Attrition orbs, dealing sustained damage. That's probably not bad. So again, and then here you've got jolting feedback. So maybe you wanted these two. These actually might be a really high chance to drop together. And then Onslaught and Closing Time would also be pretty high. But if you were trying to get attrition orbs and say Kill Clip, your odds are really, really against you. But if you wanted like Killing Wind and Kill Clip, you might actually see that a lot more common than you would, say, Killing Wind and Jolting Feedback. So that's why Bungie's basically saying, yeah, somehow their RNG algorithm has messed up. Seem to have found a solution. They're working on it. But on the other side, there probably have been times in the course of random weapon drops at some point that things have actually worked in our favor. Unintentionally, but that's just kind of how it goes. So I know this is like kind of a bit of a long-winded explanation, but I wanted to try and explain it as best as I could, because it's kind of crazy how, again, if you look at a video game, it's a bit of a surprise how they ever make it to us in the first place, because if you think about some of the behind-the-scenes code that it probably took to get any type of loot game system to work and have fun to it, there's a lot of systems going on, and this is just one of those points. I actually saw another picture that I think Scaro sent over, because we had him on the podcast yesterday, and it's a bit of another crazy situation, because you can actually see this picture, and I know this looks like gibberish, but on the left, so this is when loot was extremely bugged. It was like almost binary, kind of on or off. Then you can see this one here in the middle. This is where it was like a fast fix, and you can see there's like waves, and there's a pattern in here. And this is probably something weird like Bungie was dealing with, and it probably wouldn't look like this on a scatter plot. But the idea is you've got some patternness. Then you go over here on the right, and that is pure randomness. That is absolute random as best as you could do it. There is really no pattern in there. This, you can truly almost see, like, not quite sine waves, but you can see the waves. You can see a pattern in there. Almost, like, repeatable. Almost, not quite, but pretty damn close. So the middle point is maybe where Destiny's currently at right now, but we just have had crafting and other situations that may have helped. Now, I don't know how long this has been going on. Crafting's been in the game since Witch Queen. So we had Witch Queen, we had Lightfall, we had Final Shape, and we've had crafting for a while for every one of the seasons. So it's not anything that we've really been thinking about. But if we've been working with this in the middle and you feel like, man, just some of the really good drops that I've wanted haven't happened, or this one weapon, I got the drop pretty easily and it happened, all of that could have been on account of this. So we are going to work towards a more fully random, like, loot drop system, which overall will probably just make things a bit more fair for everybody. If you get a good roll, cool. That's just like a literal dice roll, as opposed to what was going on behind the scenes that nobody really knew about. And unfortunately, the dice was weighted, but that was like a weird RNG algorithm accident as opposed to anything else. So this is just a really cool thing. You know, looking at statistics and computer RNG and all of this stuff, I'd say cool. It's like, sometimes it's worked in our favor, sometimes it hasn't worked in our favor. But one, the fact that Bungie turned around an answer in like 48 hours, the fact that all this happened in about 48 to 72 hours, kind of crazy. Biggest thing I can tell you is, if you're going for certain weapons right now, you might wait until they drop the fix, because when it comes to any of the stuff that they're working on at the moment, it's probably going to be a bit more fair for farming, especially the new stuff, since there's not really a lot of crafting. So if you're going for something like Chill Inhibitor, you might wait until it's actually fixed, but they're working on it. But yeah, this roll and this roll right now, there's a reason people weren't crazy. It was apparently actually really hard to get it to drop, and now you know why. So crazy things in the world of video games, but stay tuned for Twitter and everything else from Bungie to pop something out there to say, hey, we've got real RNG cooking at this point. But shout out to the big brains in the world of the Destiny community for, one, solving puzzles, and then two, figuring out that this is actually a real thing. If you guys enjoyed the video, you know, drop a like below, say hello or whatever you like. Got a lot of stuff coming up. I played a couple of betas, early access and something, and then we've also got a ton of stuff next week. I'm going to be doing a bunch of Monster Hunter stuff, and then Dragon Age is going to be in the middle of that as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you soon. Have a good one.